All right, we are live here. So this is the international break going on. So I'm FPL Kante here with my buddies, FPL Wrangler and ZD, with the survey results that we did last week. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all our listeners, wherever you are. Uh, so this is going to be kind of a casual video. This is the first time we are doing something like this. We'll just take it easy, nothing serious, just kind of talking about mostly the survey results. We may will kind of give our own opinions, but that's what we are going to do today. How are you doing, guys? Wrangler, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good, good. ZD, everything
Yep,
okay on your
doing
end?
good. Very. It was a boring Sunday, but I think live FPL is making exciting, and we are also
Yeah,
here with the video.
yeah. So like four games gone so far, right, in the
Yep,
virtual appeal. So all of us are playing. So we may want to do maybe a video later
yep,
on how we are doing on our virtual appeal. It's fun. It's definitely fun.
yep,
Kind of time pass during this long international break, right?
yep.
So, all right. So let's get into this. So this was a quick survey that we did last week. Not a big sample size, I would say. Only 63 people responded. And at the same time, I would expect whoever responded are kind of engaged managers. So even if the sample size increases, I don't think the kind of, at least subjectively, the results would not differ that much percentage wise. It probably would be very similar. But of course, in the future, we'll try to increase the sample size a little more. We might open the survey for others who could not join later on. But at least right now, let's get going. So the first question from us was, what do you use for your APL transfer decision? Whether it's eye test only, stats only, bit of both, or neither, right? So this was one of the biggest debates like a few weeks back, like Dennis versus King, Foden versus Bernardo Silva. Like what do you really use, right? Is it just the player that's looking good on your eye, or is it more like the underlying stars who are expected to do better, right? So of course, here it's a little bit of mix of both. That's what I guess most of experienced FPL managers do. Watch the games, see who you like, and then look at the underlying stats and kind of make the decisions based on both, right? So what do you guys do, Wrangler? What's your
Yeah, I'm
strategy
kind of
generally?
in the majority part as well. So like I usually watch the game. If I cannot watch, I at least see the highlights,
Mm-hmm.
and try to find out. And especially sometimes, like say some fixtures are coming good, right? And then you want
Mm-hmm.
to kind of do scouting. You want to see how that player is doing, and then if something catches in my eyes, then I see the underlying stats as well, because like whenever I do transfer, I want to kind of at least think about mid to long term, right? So underlying
Right.
statistics is very important there. So yeah, I
But
kind of do both here. So I'm kind of in the majority part, so.
ZD, what about you?
Um, yeah, it's kind of actually a bit of both, like
Mm-hmm.
with majority. Uh, Kindly biased with eye test, because like whenever I see the game and see that one player is going to the good position and finding
Mm-hmm.
opportunities, but that thing also sometimes support with the stats, right? So that's why I think it's both, because when I transfer, I mean it's very valuable transfer, so we need to
Yep.
make a good decision, and not just only stats. I think sometimes stats come with the eye test as well, like, right?
Right.
So I would say both of them for me.
Right, and I mean, as you both of you said, it's not quite like completely exclusive of each other, right?
Hmm.
There are overlaps. If a player is looking good, there is very high likelihood that his underlying stats are also pretty well, right? So sometimes it may differ a little bit here and there, but historically speaking, that's basically the thing. What it is. The Bernardo versus Foden thing was kind of it was a pretty big debate in Twitter, right? Bernardo was getting the points back in like game week 14 on 15, something like that, and Foden had the better underlying numbers, and it eventually showed, right? Bernardo's number digressed after that. He's still playing good, but he's not just returning anymore, right? As much at least. So again, it kind of depends on the kind of manager you are. Sometimes it can be maybe the stats are not there, but he's just informed. Like for example, Lingard of last season, right? He didn't have the underlying numbers, but he returned, like 7, 8 game weeks in a trot. So things like that can happen. But yeah, generally speaking, you want to look at stats uh, more often than not, because it's hard to watch all the games anyways, right? So anyways, let's
Yeah.
move on.
Sometimes
Next.
eye test player you said have it's like a little streaky player, right? Probably
Yep.
2 3 games, but later they play well probably, but they are not giving much point.
Yeah, I mean, in Twitter, especially like some of the data analytics guys, they are very much in opposition of using the term form. Like, how do you define form, right? Is it like 2 games, 3 games, how much points you are getting, and so on? So it's hard to quantify that. How do you define form? But yeah, as you said, there are players like that, like sticky players, like maybe like a Madison or a James Ward-Prowse. They always do that. Whenever they're returning points, they do that in like 7, 8 games in a row. So anyway, so the next question was, if you do value stats, which most of the people did, right, in our first question, where do you get your stats from? So of course there are free websites like FBref, who uses stats bomb data. There are a few other unpaid websites. There are paid fantasy websites like Scout, Hub, Fix, etc. And then there are of course content creators, bigger content creators than us, of course. And if you don't care about stats, right? So of course, which is surprising is that a lot of people don't probably, even if they care about stats, they don't go and search for the stats themselves, right? They just look at the content creators for those stats. So the content creators are essentially harvesting all those stats for them, for the listeners, for the audience, right? For the other players. So that was interesting to know. Wrangler, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, so like whenever I was like in a situation where I didn't really like look into this or like the stats. Like so I used to follow most of the content creators, right? Right.
Mhm,
Recently, we have started creating content. So um, my recently actually I've been looking into FBref and also have like paid some other websites as well.
mhm,
But I was also I'm not very surprised to see that a lot of people kind of like follow or believe whatever content creators provide, and that was one of the sources for me as well before, I'll be honest. And
right.
this actually is very interesting, and we as a content creator, we should be very careful. Whenever I see this, I mean, I also kind of reminded myself as well that whenever we
Mhm,
provide any data, we should be very careful. First of all, it should be very like like valid and should be correct. And secondly, like if you like I think Kanti, right, like one of the recent video that Raptor like released on his mental,
mhm.
I think it's psychology
Psychology, yeah.
part 4, right?
Right.
And he mentioned that, right? I mean, sometimes we provide data based on only this good part, right? We don't show the bad part sometimes,
Mhm,
so there are different ways to like show the data, right? So we as a content creator actually should be very careful, and we should show both like the kind of the overall spectrum, and then the viewers or whoever follows us, they should then take or judge based on that. Okay.
mhm.
But yeah, I'm not very surprised, but we should be very careful as a content creator. That's my take on that.
Yeah. Z, do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Wrangler what he said. And obviously, previously, I was actually looking at similarly content creators, but nowadays, of course, I look at FB rate, FBref, sometimes other unpaid sites. I mean,
Mhm,
previously as well. Um, so now I think the source has been changed, but yeah, it's very good to know that most of the people, like almost 50%, looks stats from content creators.
right. Yeah, I mean, one quick thing on this one is, again, on the FPL Twitter, most of the data analytics people, they prefer FBref as their source of data because StatsBomb, their XG model, looks at more parameters, right? It's not just how likely the player was to score the goal. They look at like goalkeeper position, defender's position when the shot was being taken, and so on. So most of the analytics guys on FPL Twitter prefer FBref's model, which comes from StatsBomb, right? So just kind of an anecdote on this. But again, I mean, whatever you find convenient, it's not convenient for every FPL player to go and look at this data himself or herself, right? Another important thing was I was looking at, I think Wrangler, you were also kind of sharing that information, Borges's interview, right? So he said in his interview, it was probably from like a couple years back with FF Scout, that he creates his own XG tables, right? So he gets the data, of course, but he just doesn't depend on that. He even looks at historical data, like data from previous seasons, previous years. So that was also interesting, right? It's not just these seasons
Mhm.
data. You want to look at historical data of players. Do they continuously outperform their XG numbers or not, right? So that was also interesting.
Yeah, XG delta or XA delta. Here, one thing
Mhm.
though, just I want to highlight one thing.
Mhm.
Although overall, like content creators like 32%, sorry, 50%, right? But if you sum up like FBRay for other page, right? That's also
Mhm.
50%. So that's good to know as well that managers also not only rely on the content creators, they also do their own research, which is really good. So
Right,
that's I mean it could be from different website, different form, but if you sum them up, if you accumulate, you will it's very close as well, right? So which is good.
correct. Okay, let's go to the next
Do you
one.
agree, guys? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I mean, we, as you mentioned, right? So previously, when we were not creating content, we were mostly looking at content creators ourselves, right? Now that we know the source of the data, and it's pretty convenient, right? You don't necessarily have to like crunch the data or anything. The data is right in front of your eyes, pretty much. You just have to take the data, as simple as that. So yeah, it's mix of a lot of things generally, depending on how much time you want to spend on that. But yeah, I agree. Okay, so the next one is what's more important for your transfer decision. So this one is also interesting. Is it form? Is it fixture? Or is it mix of both? Right. So it's most of the people are saying it's mix of both, which is understandable. Of course, you want to attack the fixtures, but you also want to attack the fixtures with the players who are in form, right? So that's very understandable, nothing surprising. 30 or 40% people actually said they just make their decisions based on fixture itself. And I was probably like that, like say 3 4 years ago, when I was more of a casual APL player. I was just looking at, hey, who has the best fixture, say in the next game week, sometimes even in a very short term, right? Maybe just one game week, and I would target that. I am not as aggressive anymore. I want to look at least if I'm transferring someone in that has a value added to it, right? I want to make sure that he has maybe at least 2 3 4 good fixtures upcoming, right? But yeah, I was like that. I was basically all fixture whenever I was making my transfer decisions. Now it's a little bit different. I look at stats, which is kind of connected to form, right? So it's a mix of form and fixture both. ZD, what do you do nowadays when you are making your transfer decisions?
Um, so mostly actually, right now I think fixture is very important, like to make decisions. I used to think like, am I form? I thought like probably I am a form guy, but seems like
Mm-hmm.
actually if you see most of the decision actually based on fixture.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes of course I want to ride in the boat who has like greater form, but I think fixture sometimes stop me. Like this year when I felt like Madison is going to start his
Mm-hmm.
hot streak, I wanted to get him,
Mm-hmm.
but see, on the same time, his fixture was not that great. But there is a chance that he will be in the good form, and someone other who has like better fixture. So I always took them and took them not like Madison, but see, Madison is like a scoring in each game
Yeah.
week.
Mm-hmm.
So feel like I am. It should be mix of both probably, but feel like I'm mostly
More of a
fixture guy.
fixture guy.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
more of a fixture guy. And obviously if like in any premium or like any uh, that actually on that decision EO comes out, like
Mm-hmm.
if you think like okay, this player is going to be great form and his EO is so high, I mean
Right.
in that case I jump on that that asset. But Most of the cases, I think I support fixture
Wrangler,
honestly.
what about you?
Yeah, it's mix of both, but I think to me again, fixture actually comes first. I mean, if I see a good run of fixture,
Mm-hmm.
then actually I pick up, some of the key players that I can think of to bring, right? And then I see their
Mm-hmm.
form and their stats. So first fixture come, but I also see their form, right? So I think
Right.
this data makes sense, right? But yeah, I do mix of both. But fixture comes first, but and then I see the form and the stats, the things.
Yeah,
What about
one
you?
quick
Yeah.
thing on this is FPL theorists logic like yin and yang strategies, right? So
Mhm.
yang is more kind of, hey, I have this one good fixture, I want to get a player to target that particular one fixture, right? But the yin strategy, even if you're targeting fixtures, you are probably thinking of not just one fixture, run of fixtures, right? That you want to get in a player, transfer in a player who you would keep in your team for at least 4, 5, 6 game weeks, something like that. That it is not a direct transfer out right away. One good example of this is both of us, me and Wrangler, we transferred in Dennis, right? Because we wanted to target the double game, and we all know how that played out. And now we are have to think about getting him out, right? It was not necessarily a bad decision, but things like those happen, right? If it doesn't work out for a short term punt, then you have to kind of think about getting him out right away. So again, it's kind of how you are as an FPL manager. It depends on that, but just keep that in mind, right? For any FPL manager, that if you want to get in a player for fixtures, let it not be just one particular fixtures. Let it be at least a run of good fixtures that you want to transfer him for. Okay, let's
Yeah, I
move
mean
on.
here also, like, I mean, if you
Hmm.
see, right, the data that it shows, right, if you go back,
Yeah.
so fixture actually a very like 40%, it's a huge chunk, right? So whoever, even the mix of both, I personally think that they first see the fixture, as I said,
Right.
and then they kind of back that up based on form or whatever it is. So I think fixture play, even the Bruno thing, right? Whenever Bruno had a haul in double
Hmm.
game week, he was not in a form, but a lot
Correct.
of good managers, right? If you know, they bring Bruno because of the
Hmm.
fixture, and then it clicked. So yeah.
Correct. Yep. All right. So next one is, what's your viewpoint on taking hits? So this one is also interesting for me personally, because I was pretty much a hit addict before, right? Up until like maybe like 2 years ago, even last year, I think I took like 100 plus points hit over the season. This season I have been kind of intentionally trying to take as less hit as possible, but it turns out that this season is actually the opposite. A lot of people I saw on Twitter who took like 100 plus points hit, and they're within like 1,000 overall rank or something like crazy, because the decisions they took in short term with the hits, it paid out in the short term and probably in the longer term also. Like people like took James Reese early, maybe with a heat, and then he returned for like 3, 4, 5 game weeks. By the time we took him in, he was already kind of whatever we want to call it, out of form. Chelsea was kind of out of form, so he didn't return as much, nearly not as much. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I personally would not mind taking a hit if it's for constructing my team or restructuring my team for the longer run. Again, I don't want to take a hit in a single game week for a single player, right? If it's either a double game week, I want to get in a double game weaker for a -4 hit, it's probably worth it. Or I can get a player in for a -4, or maybe even a -8, 2 players, 3 players in, if they have good fixtures in the longer run, right? And there are players in my team who I don't want anyways. So yeah, that's my viewpoint. What do you think, Zidi? How?
Um, so yeah, I mean, like last year actually, for me actually, I don't prefer heat nowadays. Not
Mm-hmm.
nowadays. I think probably last 2 years probably.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
like last year, I finished in like around 9,000. So like overall, I mean, one strategy was like not to take heat.
Right.
Uh, but this year, like I think first 10 game weeks or 13 game weeks, I
Mm-hmm.
did not take any. I took like only two hits probably,
Yeah.
not that
Yeah.
much hit. But later, I think when the game started postponement, um, I mean, things got changed, and then I mean, I think this year is it's a little bit different because
Correct.
when like game postponed, you think that okay, it's -2, you take the heat
Hmm.
to play in and exercise. So in that case, I took the hits. Like this right now at this moment, I am actually taking some hit, which is like to make it orange. Occasional hits to attack the game because I am attacking the game. That's why I'm taking some hits to attack the game.
Hmm.
So for me, I think I will be more like in the orange one. Not like I'm not like never hit take it. I'm not that way actually. I
Hmm.
think I am like occasional hits to attack the game. If I think like overall.
Yeah. How about you, Wrangler?
I was like you, as you know, right? I was a
Yeah.
hit addict last year. I had more than 100 hits in 100 points.
Hmm.
You already know that, but this year I tried to kind of change myself, and I think I fall into this like only to handle injuries and blanks. At
Hmm.
least this season, I tried to maintain that as much as I could,
Right.
and as you know, right, in my bench still I have Reece James, I still have Livramento, right? I could have taken
Hmm.
hit, but I didn't do that. While this season probably was the best season to have like these occasional hits, right? And I
Hmm.
had two scenarios this time, and I think Kanti, you know that one of them was Bernardo. I was
Right.
very like inclined to take a hit to take Bernardo and Dennis at the same game week, but
Hmm.
just because it's a hit, I didn't take it, and both of them had a good run at that time, right? And another one was Jota. Jota had a like 15 points haul. I just didn't take it because it's gonna be a hit.
Yeah.
So it didn't pay it off. I mean, it didn't pay off at the end. At now, whenever I see, but I just thought to maintain this philosophy. Here, this like occasional hits to attack the game. That's 60%, right? I think this is also not only attack the game. It's kind of like as you were mentioning theories, right? It could be an Ian strategy as well. Like you might take
Hmm.
a hit -4 or 8, but you are thinking long term, right?
Right.
Say not only attack this game week, you are thinking to okay, I'm gonna get the hit, get this player on board ahead of the like time that people
Hmm.
do, and then you're gonna keep it for a long term. So that could be another um, I would say people type like two, right? It's not only attack the game, but also. So I think that 60% not only attack the game, but that fall or combine those people as well.
Right.
But I actually fall into that again recently. That only taking hits to handle injuries and blanks as of now.
Yeah. Again, I mean, this season is kind of unique, right? These results are probably biased by this season's outcome. That's what is in people's mind right now, right? But in a regular season, that's what I learned over the last 2 3 seasons is that most of the time taking hits, taking short-term punts, and taking hits for those necessarily doesn't pay off, right? This season is very unique. So again, whatever you are learning this season may not apply for the next season, right? So whenever you go to the next season, there are not as many postponements. The COVID situation is better. Fresh, have a fresh start, right? So don't think that whatever you're learning this season will apply for that season as well. All right, so let's move on to the next one. So next one is talking about how much does effective ownership impact your transfer decisions. This is another interesting one. uh, I personally, up until probably this season, I never looked at EO because there was no EO, right? Live FPL started the idea concept of EO probably like a couple seasons ago. um, but this is, I mean, even when there was no live APL or no EO in there, like visually some number in there, we would still think about it, right? Like, hey, if I captain this guy, most of the people are probably going to captain the other guy, says Salah versus Ken last year or something like that. We would probably kind of subconsciously think about it anyways, right? So even if you're not thinking about EO consciously, you are probably thinking about it subconsciously anyways. That I don't want to be too far away from the crowd, right? So this is interesting. This is a little spread out, and again, which makes sense. There are lots of different managers thinking differently, but at least I would say like 50% plus people care about EO more than 5 out of 10, right? So that definitely tells something, right? So people don't want to be too far away from like crowd. Again, if a player is very high EO, like for example Salah, Jota, Trent, Cancelo, all these players this season they have been always pretty high EO. One interesting thing is how quickly you can get onto them, right? Before they actually become high EO, or before they become template, right? That's the key thing. If you can get onto them early, then you get the points where the crowd is not getting them. They probably become high EO anyways. But yeah, I do value EO to some extent. My last week's Dennis transfer indecision was purely based on EO, nothing else, literally nothing else. I was just thinking about EO that Dennis is going to be highly owned and highly captained in my rank area. So that was the sole reason that I got him in, right? Uh, what are your guys' thoughts, Wrangler? On EO?
Yeah, it's kind of very similar. So again, I brought Dennis. I mean, I had King, but I was kind of nervous
Mm-hmm,
that Dennis already his EO was very high, and he was actually very much having effect on my rank before, like whenever. So I was very
mm-hmm.
nervous, and I thought, okay, this is double game week.
Right.
I took Dennis. Eventually, it
Mm-hmm,
didn't work, but again, I think I it's the same thing for me. I didn't care about EO before, but
right.
EO. I feel like again. I always say that we all play against each other,
Mm-hmm,
so EO is very important, at least near to your rank, and the thing is, right, I mean, the EOA is high, there is reason for that, right? That player either doing good, statistically good, or form good, or whatever you say it, right? There is reason for that. And as you mentioned, either you jump onto that template before or after, that's different thing, but
mm-hmm,
EO matters, right? And one other example I'd like to give, that Salah in game week 9, right? There was like
mm-hmm,
Salah versus Kai Havertz, right? I captained Salah. I got 48.24 times 2, but I still had red arrow in that game week.
mm-hmm,
Uh, and that's because of this effective ownership. Like, although I captained him, I didn't, I mean, get anything out of it, right?
mm-hmm.
So EO really, I mean, it's good to see that 50-50, and I care EO now, I would say.
ZD.
Um, so for me, it's kind of I do care, but not full extent. Like I want to have those player who have like obviously the top ceiling. Mostly like if we count Salah or um, uh, Trent. I mean,
Mm-hmm,
those guys. I mean, actually, you cannot ignore them. Obviously, I care about that, like effective ownership. But to bring a transfer, like when my template team is ready, when I do transfer, usually I don't care that much for during that transfer, like particular one transfer or the. Uh, I want to make some differential move during with my transfer, having
mm-hmm.
like 7 or 6 7 highly EO player. Uh, I mean, those player you cannot ignore. I mean, I
Right.
feel like that way. So EO, of course, important in that case. And but like, but I don't want to. I mean, this is like my thought. I also fear a little bit, but I want to move a little bit from the fairness of EO, but it's not
Mm-hmm,
like the whole. It's not like completely opposite. It's like little bit. Like say
mm-hmm.
when I want to captain, I feel like this is a good captain's option, but I don't want to give captaincy
Completely far from the crowd.
completely
Yeah.
for the EO. If I
Mm-hmm,
feel like okay, or my or say my theory or everything supports this guy, I want to give him captaincy rather than losing the rank. I mean, sometimes this kind of decision, I feel like I get down for that decision. I don't want to take. I mean, I want to take care, but not like full extent. So it's like crowd, like 50-50. I mean,
right.
you want to take care again, you don't want to take care, something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
one thing. Sorry,
yeah.
just
Go
to
ahead.
kind of
Yeah.
add
Mm-hmm,
one thing. So I want to quote one of the like person. He commented in my one of my tweets, is that that differential thing, right? That EO thing. I think people first try to make the structure, like you have a core structure, right?
mm-hmm,
And that should be very much like, EO should be very high. I think people care about that first. So you take the essentials first. You make sure you have the essential, and then you think about the differential, right? It's not like you all have differential, right? That
Okay.
doesn't
No.
work, right? And EO plays there, right? That essential part, that, and then
Yeah.
differential part. You think about one or two, but I think EO plays very much in terms of your core structure. That's my,
Yeah, yeah, of
Right.
course. Like this year, my rank is not like where I am. I'm not that happy, but still, I feel like I'm not that outside because I have all those essential players. Like my captaincy decision this year actually did not work well. But still, I am in the competition, or I can reach to 10K potentially later because
Hmm.
of I have all those EO player. Like if someone holds, I never missed it because I have them. Probably I did not captain them, so that's why I am little behind, but I'm not like completely out of the scenario. Like I
Right.
captained Havertz, I did not captain Salah, but still I am in the
In the
I
team.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, on the
Yeah.
team. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying that of course EO is important in that case. Like because I
Hmm.
have most of the case I have all the highly owned player, but
Right.
probably during captain's edition it sometimes play big role. I mean that's a very tough job. Everyone
Yeah,
knows.
yeah. I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit in the template question, also very connected question, right? EO and
Mm.
template. So we'll talk about there a little bit too. But before that, so another question from us was, do you use any FPL transfer planner, right? So again, all these questions are kind of connected to how you transfer or how you select the players that you are getting in, and if yes, which one, right? So surprisingly, a lot of people, like 40% plus people, said that they don't use any transfer planner. And again, I discovered this transfer planner in LiveFPL last season. As soon as I found it, Wrangler, I told you, right? Hey, there is this nice thing. ZD, you probably already knew about it. Um, but it kind of changed how I look at the game, right? Before, because if you're just looking at the FPL website, you have to kind of think of it either in your own mind, or you have to create your own Excel sheet or write it down and kind of think it like that. The thing that if live FPL did, and FPL.team is another website that does that, by the way. They came out this season, I believe. A very similar structure. But basically, the way you can do it is you can look at your transfers and then how your team looks like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 game weeks down the road, right? So that you can make sure that the guy you are getting in is not just a short term transfer. He can work out in the team for a longer run, and then you can see using your FTs, free transfers, how it works out, right? So I definitely suggest any appeal manager or anyone that sees this to use at least some form of planner, right? So I see some people here uses Ben Kralin's transfer planner, which is comes with, I think, a paid subscription from Hub. Some people have their own Excel sheet or something else that they are using. Uh, but yeah, I mean, you should at least use some form of planner so that you can actually see your transfers, not just in the short run, in the longer run. Uh, Wrangler and ZD, you go first. What do you think? What do you use
Um,
as a transfer planner now?
Of course, Live FPL is a very good tool. Last year I used it a lot. This year
Mm-hmm.
I also check. This year actually I am. Oh, and of course, Krillins. That one is very handy. Especially, I think I use that mostly after half a like when double gaming is coming, and I think each year I do have my own Excel.
Mm-hmm.
Like this year I made one, and it feels like pretty handy. But I have. I probably follow three of them, but most of the time say I want to see the pictures. I use live FPL. Sometimes I feel like okay, I want to keep
Right.
some tracking. That's why I use my own Excel like or Google Sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben Krillin's one, that's pretty important. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
like right now, I always look for his update, right? So that's essential after
Yeah.
the half season, like later part of the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But yeah,
Wrangler.
I think
Yeah.
most of the people who give no probably, uh, I mean, I don't know, but it's very pretty handy as Kanta said because it shows you the upcoming uh, good fixture swing or other thing. That thing you can actually plan from there.
Yeah, even like things like chip strategy, right? Unless you are using some sort of planner, it's hard to visualize when you want to play your chips, right? Say something like a
Hmm.
free hit or like a bench boost. So it's a very, very, very handy. Wrangler, I know, like last year when we before we knew about the live APL planner, we were trying to do something in Google Sheets, right? We were trying to do something together, which worked to some extent. It did work well, but I'm pretty sure you are also using live APL extensively now.
Yeah, again, just for all the viewers, I mean, some people are very good thinking in their mind and whatever it is, but I would say take an opportunity. It's kind of free, and I mean, however you do it, but it's very
Right.
helpful. Just one example, say if you play free hit, sorry, wildcard now, right? A lot of people already hit the wild card, right, in game week
Mm-hmm.
24. Just see how does this team look like, kind of overall structure in 28. Can you do that in your mind or in Excel? It's difficult, right?
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
in this platform, you can see in game week 28, you will see that like all of these are red, like Manchester United, Man City playing against each other,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Liverpool and West Ham. And then you will understand, oh, really, how can I then take care at that time? So that really is helpful to
Okay.
to kind of plan. So yeah, take the advantage.
Right. Okay, so let's move on. So the next one is what day of the week is your preferable transfer deadline? So this should be a pretty quick discussion. I prefer Saturdays because here in USA, even if it's Saturday early morning, I can either sleep early or like just don't sleep at all, whatever. But it's easier for me to just wake up early, make the transfers at deadline, basically, even if it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I go to sleep or whatever, right? But it's easier for me. Fridays are harder, pretty much for all three of us, is because we are at work when the deadline is. So it's harder to kind of make the decisions on the fly, especially this season when there are late decisions about double game weeks or postponements, right? It's very hard to make the last moment call on Fridays. At least if it's on Saturday morning, you have a little more time. So yeah, I absolutely prefer it being Saturdays in comparison to Fridays or midweek. Wrangler, what's your preferred deadline?
Yeah, same. Saturdays work for me because in US time, right?
Mhm.
Friday night I can spend time and think about it. I wake up early and to do the transfer. Fridays usually like we have work, so it's I mean it kind
Mhm.
of becomes a hassle to do transfer. So yeah, start like Saturday work for me well than other.
ZD?
Yeah, previously, I mean, I wanted Friday all the time because it feels like okay, game week is going to start, right? But
Mhm.
I mean, now it's now because during that time actually we used to transfer during the week. But
Mhm.
now as things changed, we get like lots of information just before the deadline, and we
Right.
do our transfer just before the deadline, and that's very tough because we have office during that time. So Saturday is better in that sense because in the morning I can wake up and make the transfers. But for Friday, it's getting difficult. But I I actually always get excited when I say Friday or midweek because seems like we will have like lots of games starting, right? So in that case,
Mhm.
but fantasy wise, for this season, it's Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next one. This is connected to our EO discussion before, right? So template rating is kind of another expression of EO of your total overall team, right? Overall team structure. So what sort of template rating you are happy with, right? So it comes with, of course, not just your players, but your captaincy also. Your template rating takes care of your captaincy also. Who is your captain? So generally speaking, I am happier, or I would say, I feel more relieved if I'm somewhere in between 70 to 90%. A lot of people here, like 43%, said that they don't care or they don't even notice it. I don't know how true is that, to be honest, but I personally, if I'm somewhere in that ballpark, 70 to 90%, I feel relieved enough. At the same time, I feel like I have at least maybe two or three or four differentials in my team. If they do well, I have a good chance to go up the rank, right? So that's how I view it. ZD, what? How do you see template rating?
For me, I usually feel like I'm comfortable with 70 to 80 rather than 80 to 90. But
Mhm.
I always feel like 70 to 80 is comfort zone for me
Mhm.
to have like most of the yo cover and some differential. It's also, I think, related, depend on a little bit where you stand with your rank. Like when if you are like already between 50K, I think you make your template like most than 80%, right?
Hmm.
But as I am like right now outside of 100K, probably I would pray that those my
Hmm.
differential work
Workout, yeah.
and make little bit different, but still probably not less than 70%. Still probably higher than 70% for me.
Right. Wrangler.
Yeah, I'll be very happy with 70 to 90 as well. I'll be very nervous if I see my team is like very much away from the template,
Less
right?
than 70, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and I told you before as well, Kante, right? If you remember, is basically like sometimes you have to play defensively, right? I mean, it's not like you always attack.
Hmm.
And then if you are in 70 to 90% playing defensive is well, right? I mean, you are kind of hovering around probably in some of this like over range. And
Hmm.
then at some point, if you like, you know what, like this is a good fixture, I have some differential like Foden or whoever it is, and it worked for me at least in general, as you guys know already. But I'll be very nervous if my team is like less than 70% from the template.
Right. Right. I mean, there is no magic number, and of course, if you're not familiar with live APL, you probably don't even see it at all. But it's just if you're an engaged manager, you just don't want your weekend to be ruined because you have a template rating of say 50%. Right? It's nice to have differentials, a lot of differentials, but if and when they don't work out, and most of the time, all of your differentials won't work out at the same time, you will feel kind of down, right? So that's what you don't want to. That's why the template rating is important. It's not like just for your rank or something like that, but as Wrangler, you were talking about the mental health also, right? You don't want to be like overly anxious that, hey, wow, I have like a 50% template rating, I'm doomed, right? So you don't want to get getting there. But yeah, so
I
let's.
think for 50%,
Mhm.
probably 1 week it might work where
Right.
all the differential clicks. But probably if you compare with 5 weeks or 6 week, I mean, it could be only 1 week.
Yeah, I
But
mean, if it's
later,
like a if
you
it's like a free
green arrow
hit week.
probably one, right? It will be
Yeah.
probably green week, green, green arrow probably 1 week, not like all the time. Mostly it will be red, red, of course.
Yeah, yeah. If it's like a free hit game week, right? Everywhere, everyone is playing their free hits. In that week, I don't mind having a 50% rating, right? What it tells me is just for that 1 week. But if I have a 50% template rating, that means I'm far from the crowd for a few weeks. I'll struggle to catch up with the crowd for maybe next 3 4 games, right? So yeah, absolutely agree. For a game week or so, it's okay, not too bad to have. All right, so let's move on. So these were all basically the transfer questions. So the next few questions are more on captaincy. So this one is asking for who do you captain more often? Is it premiums or non-premiums? Again, I mean, it kind of depends. Generally speaking, we of course all of us try to captain premiums as much as possible. If there is no obvious captain choice among the uh, premiums, or say if someone is injured, then we probably think about a non-premium, right, with a good fixture potentially. And we'll talk about single game week and double game week in a minute also. But if there is a non-premium with a double game week, like last season that happened, right? I think Bamford and Rafinha were heavily captained. Was it around like game week 26, 27, right? A random double game week for Leeds, and everyone captained Rafinha or Bamford, right? So, and other than that, pretty much all the time we are trying to captain the premiums with the best fixture, right? Whether it's Salah, KDB, Kane, etc., etc. Bruno last season, right? So, but yeah, doesn't matter. I don't know. Maybe just because it was an option, people chose that. But of course, you are going with either a premium or a non-premium with a good fixture. Wrangler, what do you think about the
Yeah, I'm
two?
with the majority here. Like non-premiums can be an option whenever the picture is good, and like King Dennis is another thing, right? And we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna talk later, as you said, but non-premiums can be an option if the picture is good. So
ZD?
For me, I think most of the time it's premiums. If it is single game week or with the good fixtures, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
non-premiums. Uh, uh, I think it's a little bit rare. Like Bowen this year different. I think, but rest of the time it's always premium for me.
Yeah, now also, but then now that you spoke about Bowen, sometimes it's not just about the price, right? So Bowen is underpriced this season. If
Yeah,
anything, 6.5 is underpriced.
yeah,
Even Jota, he's underpriced at like 7.5 million. That's
Yep.
what he started the season with. They are also kind of in the premium category for their teams because their team is also doing well. So it's not always just about the price point. Sometimes it can be like the talisman of a good team, as simple as that, right? They can also be considered as a premium. I'm pretty sure Bowen is going to be priced at least at 8 million next season. Jota is probably going to be priced at like 9.5, something like that next season. So yeah, it's not just price, it's premium is also sometimes just the talisman of a good team, right? As simple as that. So all right, so let's move on. I may have to take a quick break, by the way, in a few minutes, just letting you guys know, but we'll continue until that. Next one is, who do you preferable captain FPL position wise? So this is again kind of could be dubious, but uh, 32% people are saying doesn't matter, whoever the better player is given the fixture and given the team. 65% majority people are saying that they try to captain the midfielders most of the time, and there is a reason, right? Because uh, midfielders get additional point for goals in comparison to attackers. You get the the clean sheet point if you do get the clean sheet. So same performance between an attacker and a midfielder, you are always getting at least 2 points more, right? Bonus point is a little different. I was seeing article. Bonus point actually always favors the forwards. So if a forward scores a goal, he gets more bonus points, BPS, in comparison to a midfielder. So it kind of balances out there, maybe a little bit. But yeah, I mean, because how it has played out in the last 2 3 seasons, Salah, Bruno, KDB, just too many good premium midfielder options to ignore, right? Not much in the forward line. Kane, other than Kane, I cannot remember anyone that was like continuously doing well over the last 2 3 seasons, right? In the premium bracket at least. Um, but yeah, what do you think, Zidi, about the position? Does it
yeah.
matter at all for you?
I know it matters a little bit, of course. I mean, this year, I think as crowds, you explained why people goes with midfielder. That makes sense, and also I think we had lots of options in the midfield and out of position midfield, right? So
Mhm,
in that case, actually, midfielders are a very good option for captain.
mhm.
And this year it's different because forwards are not actually performing that well. Although I
Right.
did captain in some of the game forwards, but I think, like, say, my thinking is like from now on to like next game until the rest of the season, I'm going to captain probably midfielders. And this year, actually, defenders are becoming very popular, especially TA,
Mhm, mhm.
Cancelo. They are performing very well. So, but there is a risk, obviously, to captain a defender. But
Right.
I do prefer midfielder, I think, rather than forward.
Yeah, I mean, like if it was like few years back, like 4 or 5 years ago, there was Aguero, who
Yeah,
probably all of us were
yeah. Actually,
captaining.
that that
There was
changed.
Suarez back then, right? So
Yeah,
Suarez was basically captain every week of the season,
of
that
course. Yeah.
season when he was performing. So that was a different time. And again, as we spoke about earlier, every season is different, right? So, but yeah, right now, given the demography of the game over the last 2 3 seasons, it has to be midfielder. So, Angler, you have any preference when you're captaining?
I actually fall into that doesn't matter here. So I usually, like, these seasons, as you said, right, this
Mhm,
data is based because forwards are not like doing anything as of now, right? But
mhm,
I actually like don't care which position they are, right? I care first which is the better player. Even this game week, if you remember, right, I was giving my, is it this week or last week? Like I gave my armored to like Trent. I thought to give because I mean I thought he's the best one.
right.
Salah was not there. So yeah, it doesn't matter for me. I just prefer the better player now. That Bowen and Antonio situation, right? Whenever
Mhm,
like you have both of this forward and mid, that's when I preferred Bowen because he was midfielder, and we already know the decision, or like whatever, why is that, like one extra point or whatever it is, right, for clean sheet.
mhm.
But usually I don't care. I give the better player usually the armband.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. All right, let's move on. This one is also interesting. Who do you captain in a double game week? The way I look at it is, I would say like 95% of the time, I would want to captain a double game weeker because you have double the probability of getting a return from him, right? And I don't see why anyone would argue with that, right? Generally speaking, but it matters. Like it matters because the quality of the double game week matters, right? All of us captained Dennis or King last game week. In the hindsight, it was probably not the best decision because of how poor Watford is, right? We probably have in our mind that under Ranieri they were doing good. Now even he's sacked. So I mean, it kind of the perception matters sometimes, right? But yeah, at least in the hindsight, that was probably not the best decision, even if they had a double game week. But would I captain maybe like a KDB over Dennis if I'm given the chance again? Most likely not. I would probably again captain Dennis, right? So the red card was of course unfortunate, but very likely I would captain Dennis again, given the knowing the fixtures that he had. But of course, I think 59% here is saying always a double game weeker. 40%, about 40% people were saying that sometimes a single game weeker from a better team. Wrangler, what's your viewpoint on this?
It's about fixture, as you said, right? So, yeah, like Watford has been poor, but they were playing against Norwich and Burnley, who have been
Correct.
poor too, right? So, and it's there is a relegation battle there. So
Hmm.
I was expecting in home Watford against Norwich should do good. Yeah, hindsight it was not a good decision, but I would go for it. It depends
Hmm.
on the like the fixture. Now again in 26, for instance, right? If say Spurs have double game week, they might have Man City and Brighton, while Liverpool is gonna play against Norwich. Right now, whom do you captain? Are you gonna give captains like give captaincy to Salah or Son or Kane? They are playing against Man City and Brighton. I
Hmm.
think at that moment I might go for Salah
Single
because
game
a
week.
single game with Salah might get 24, who's gonna outscore probably double game week Son or Kane. That's my. So it depends on the fixture, but double game weeker, yeah, makes sense. But if the fixture is not good, then single game weeker, and you have to think about it in that way.
Yeah, can't
That's
agree more. Can't agree more. ZD.
Yeah, well, I mean, what Ragnar said, I totally support. I don't know what I'll do in that case in 26, but history
Yeah.
says that I always gave captaincy to double game weeker. But I mean, I agree with Wrangler what he said. But so far, I have not given, I guess. I mean, of course, because you get two fixture, and of course, if the fixture is good, then you will give. But if something comes out like Salah versus Norwich and Spurs versus Man City and
Right on.
Brighton, then I
Mhm.
think it's better to give Salah probably.
Correct. Yeah, I mean that's going to be a critical decision that game, not just for us, for
Yeah,
the
for
community overall. So that
community.
will be a very critical discussion. I'm pretty sure Salah will still have an EO close to
Yeah,
100% in that game week, and maybe. But the thing is that a lot of people don't have Kane or Son, right? Even if you want to, because they have a double game week, would they get in Kane and Son just to captain them? Maybe not, right? So that's why the EO thing is also important, right? So you have, as Wrangler mentioned before, that we play the game with each other. It's not just about your game, who you want to captain. You have to sometimes think that who would other people captain, given the ownership and everything, right? So that's that. Yeah, 26 is going to be really, really interesting. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is connected, of course. Do you think Salah will be the Parma captain for the rest of the season? 53% said mostly, barring double games, which makes sense if he still has the form that he has before he left for AFCON. There is no reason why he wouldn't be, right? Doesn't matter. Fixtures almost never matters for Salah. At least this season, it hasn't mattered. He has performed against Chelsea, Man City, and so on. Um, and as we were talking about, say, like the game week 9 situation, Salah versus Kai, how it played out. Uh, 15%, 16% people say that yes. So definitively, like even in double game weeks, they're probably thinking of Salah as a captain, as we were talking about, say in game week 26. 29% are saying no, so they probably have some other differentials in their mind that they think will have better fixtures or double game mix and etc. Right. So again, kind of we'll say how it plays out after Salah comes back. But a lot of us are actually thinking of going without Salah for game of 25, 24 and 25 potentially, right? After he comes back from AFCON. Um, ZD, what do you think? How do you think Salah will be
It's
captain?
mostly bearing double games week. I mean, the majority. I mean, um, I don't think that he's going to lose his form, right? And the way Liverpool played without Salah, I mean, obviously he will be
Yeah.
in the scoring sheet. So,
Hmm.
of course, he's going to be the favorite options most of the cases, except from double game weekers.
Right.
I mean, if Liverpool does not have double game week and they play with like a harder
Hmm.
fixture, then obviously I would go to another double game week player.
Right. Wrangler.
Yeah, I'll go with the majority here. I think Salah will be a captain unless there is any double game mixer.
Are you both getting Salah back for game week 24 if he returns from AFCON?
We'll see. We'll have another discussion on that. Okay.
Uh, I
Okay.
mean, yeah, I my team I can get him like in a single transfer, but
Hmm.
of course we need to see where we need to have like all the information before the deadline
Right.
to make that decision.
Right. Yeah. So Egypt, of course, moved on to the semi-final. So even if they are playing the third place match, which is on 6th of February, and Liverpool's game is on 10th of February. So there are 3 days in between, which is very normal for a professional player. Good enough rest, even with the flight back and everything. But we'll have to look out for the press conferences and everything. See how Klopp is talking about him, whether he wants to start him or not. He most likely will not give out anything the way Klopp is. But let's see how it plans out. Uh, all right. So the last two questions are more on FPL content because we are FPL content creators. So we had some interest to kind of see how much content people consume and so on. So the first question is, how many hours of FPL content and pods do you consume every week? So 56%, close to 56% people say 2 to 5 hours, which is normal if you are an engaged FPL player. Uh, 10 plus hours was basically 16%, which is pretty high, right? So 10 plus hours is basically one fourth of your work hour every week, essentially, which is a lot. And then 5 to 10 hours was around 15%, and then less than 2 hours was 14%. So more sane people, right? Not insane like us who spend like hours and hours on consuming this content. Like if it was like a few seasons back, like 2 years back, I hardly consumed any FPL content, right? It would just be us talking amongst ourselves about transfers before the deadline and then making the decision. Last year, when I first found out, let's talk FPL, right? So uh, he was already highly ranked then, and a lot of people, every time you would go into YouTube, it'll be the video at the top. So that's why I knew of him, right? I did not know of him from someone else or something like that. That's what got me into the content business, right? Hey guys, I'll just take a quick break, okay? You guys keep talking about it. I'll come back, okay? Wrangler and
Sure.
Zid, you guys talking.
Yep. Sure.
Yep, sure. So yeah,
Uh,
Zidi, what about you?
for me, I think 5 to 10 hours. I mean, yeah, I spend lots of time if we actually of course consider Twitter as well. I mean 5 to 10 hours every week. And yeah, I mean I think I also started the YouTube video watching YouTube video with Andy. I mean his content was very good during that time, also right now. But I mean eh, I felt those content were very good. I mean, his way of talking and the engagement, everything was so good. So right now, I see some of the videos from FPL Mate as well. But I think yeah, it's very interesting. But yeah, 5 to 10 hours for me. What about you?
So yeah, I actually fall into the 10 plus
10
category
plus.
here. Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
because now you're a content creator, I guess that's why.
even before, yeah, I mean, before that, even like
Okay.
I used to, I mean, again, not, it's mostly in this season and even last season, like in during half of the time. So it's the same thing. Like Andy from Let's Talk FPL, he was the like first, content creator that I followed at the very beginning. And then there are a lot of contents actually. I mean, I came to know like FPL Aware by like LR and Zoff, Black Box, and also like now the Burning Question series. There are a lot. I mean, as you know, right? I mean, and then Adam Hopcroft and Fergie's, that Green Arrow. So
Hmm.
and now actually I get a lot of, I mean, even those are so interesting. I mean, we create content, but we also learn a lot of like thing from them, and then we've been
Yeah.
learning a lot. So I get occupied more than 10 plus hour. So I fall into that category, but 2 to 5 I think is good. It's really reasonable. It's good enough to be like engaged and to be up to date, which we see in this chart as well. So I think this is a good number, but I fall into the 10 plus category. I don't encourage people to do that, but I do that. So
Yeah, I mean, as I was saying before, also a lot of times I just listen to videos, even the video is on YouTube, whether I'm eating or maybe working on something, or I'm driving. I just keep it open, like almost hear it like a podcast, right? I'm listening it on YouTube, but it's almost like a podcast for me. So yeah, as you mentioned, all the pods, I follow them pretty much, and every pod has a little bit of different flavor, right? All of them have different perspectives. Some look more at data, some look more at eye test, some maybe are just looking at like say draft down odds or something like that. So every each of them have their own perspective, and it's fun kind of, right? Just kind of understand what different people are thinking. It's not just listening for the sake of listening. It's kind of understand each other's perspective.
yeah,
So
and
yeah.
also you get the overall spectrum as well, I would say,
Hmm.
right? I
Hmm.
mean, all of these content creators actually unique. I mean,
Right.
you will not find their double dipping. At least I mean, they have some, and you will get some the kind of the overall picture, which I like it actually. I mean, uh,
Yeah.
sometimes you might think, oh, it's the same thing, stats, and but it's not. If you see, it's not actually. So those are really good. I mean, I get engaged. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. So our last question of the survey was, what's your favorite form of FPL content? So as or us, or rather FPL contributors, we are kind of in both business, right? So we are also kind of writing Twitter threads. At least for the last 2-3 months, we are getting more engaged in that, and we started making videos for what, like last couple of months, right? So we are doing kind of both, and our thread content is sometimes carried over to our video content, right? But it was interesting to see that a lot of people actually are engaged more with YouTube videos. I was thinking that it would be more Twitter threads because there are a lot of people on Twitter and people don't have time to see all these videos. But seems like it's almost like 50-50, right, between threads and videos, 40% versus 37%. But that was kind of an interesting finding from this. And of course, I mean, a lot of other people read other articles. As Theorist was mentioning, he reads like the Scout articles, takes maybe like 2 minutes to read through, right? And then you just get the gist of it. Essentially, videos are longer. Some of the pods are as long as like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, right? So you don't may not have the time to do that. So ZD, what do you generally prefer as your?
Previously, I spent a lot, like last year, I spent a lot of time in free articles, like other free articles from Hub, Scout,
Hmm.
even Fix as well.
Hmm.
Um, and also, as I said, YouTube videos. Those two are actually used to spend lots of time. I think during when season was ending, I joined Reddit as well, so I was spending some
Hmm.
time over there. Um, this year, of course, Twitter threads. I don't get enough chance to join a space that much, but I would like to join more frequently in the future. But most of the time, Twitter threads is still um, getting little less time for YouTube videos. But yeah, YouTube videos another one for me as well. So Twitter threads, YouTube videos, and some free articles for me right now. And as I am actually writing some threads, so I need to spend lots of time. With different sources as well. So
Right.
um, uh, yep, pretty mix of everything actually.
Yes, since you spoke about spaces, so recently FPL USA or USA community of the FPL people, we started a space. I think we had one. It was before Game Week 23. We plan to do it maybe before at least once every before every deadline, but we'll see how it goes. But spaces are more kind of, or at least they're supposed to be more kind of informal, more interactive, where there are actual kind of FPL players, not just content creators in there, so that everyone can share their opinion and kind of have their questions, suggestions, judgments, whatever, right? So space is more of a open forum in comparison to YouTube videos. It's kind of a one-ended thing, right? The videos. But yeah, I pretty much, I would say I spend most of my time on YouTube videos these days. But of course, read threads. I write threads and I read you guys threads, theorist and other people, Osama, a lot of good thread writing going on in Twitter. Um,
Sam as well,
Podcasts,
right? Yeah.
yeah, Sam, I test. Lots of good things in Twitter also, right?
Mhm.
Podcasts not as much, because as I said, I basically listen to the YouTube videos as podcasts. And spaces I recently started. I don't spend a lot of time in spaces, but yeah, if I have time, if I'm just sitting there, just join there, talk a little bit, or just hear a little bit here and there. That's about it, right? So, Wrangler, I know you are in a lot of spaces these days in Twitter spaces, but what is your general source of content?
So it's again mixed. I mean, I every before every game week, I have some fixed videos that I always watch. Even
Hmm.
I'm very busy, so YouTube videos. I already mentioned some of the name before, right? I always watch, and also like Net That Hall, that also in addition to the whatever I said before.
Right.
And those are actually my nighttime. Whenever I go to bed, I usually kind of watch that. Whenever
Hmm.
I drive, spaces actually good for me. I just can hear, and I like spaces nowadays.
Hmm.
There are a lot of people. It's kind of also more interactive. You
Great.
can hear from different people what they're thinking, and threads are kind of easy, right? Easy to follow, like one or two, or whatever it is. So, but I spend a lot of time on the videos, I would say. But again, it's kind of all mixed together.
Hmm. All right. Okay. So that was pretty much all from our surveys. And again, as I mentioned in the beginning, we'll try to redo this, maybe open the survey again for other people. uh, More sample the better, right? So we'll try to do that, or maybe do something different from this as a survey later on too. But we'll see how it goes. As for videos, of course, before game week 24, we'll try to come back to you guys at least once with our general content plus our team selection and captaincy discussion, etc. We'll see how that pans out as well. So we'll of course notify you guys through Twitter. But yeah, definitely very likely we'll come back at least once before game week 24, which is not the next weekend either. It's in the midweek, so we still have some time to go before game week 24. Anything to comment before we leave this one, Wrangler and
Yeah,
Ziddy?
just viewers, like, the data responses as you see, right? I mean, it would be good to get more. And also, please, I mean, we really appreciate if you give us comment as well, some more questions that you want to know from the community that we can
Mhm.
put in the for the future as well. But thank you so much who have responded, and hopefully we'll have better statistics in the future, with new um, questions. So thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ziddy, last comments?
Yep. No, thank you so much, everyone who actually spent some time to give their opinion on these matters. And I would request everyone, as Wrangler requested, to put some like have some questions for us as well. Probably, what do you
Mhm.
want to see, or what do you want to cover? We will obviously try to cover. We'll try our best. Thank you. And lastly, check your virtual FPL score as well.
Yeah, we need to. I'll do that right after we're done with this. All right. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Wrangler. Thank you, ZD. Nice talking to you guys again. We'll
Mhm.
see you soon again until the next
Okay.
video. All right.
Yep.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.